kind of containing us. I think it's a perceptual game because we stuck around so long. There's this big like a sheath or almost like a cyst in higher space, and we're like, oh no, now we're trapped. And then it's like, no, you got to get through it because you've been doing that. And this is somebody comes and says, oh, you're trapped, you're screwed, just stay there, you can't do shit, you can't leave, blah blah. And we're just like, oh man, this guy's doing so much to us and he sucks. He's just getting all your energy. It's a long buzzer. He's just getting people's energy, and it's a trick because it was because people build out. And then since we're actually we're so much bigger, they come and say, not them, but like this guy, I guess he goes around here and takes a picture of that and comes and says, hey, that's gonna kill you. If you ever see that, it's gonna kill you. So it's a big weird trick. This is pretty much more or less mind hacking. It's in the other video. I wanted to make these more professional, have less playful, if you will, more focused. This might work for now. Probably doing this digitally online and then using a microphone would be more concise because I tend to get distracted and can be distracting. But basically it works as far as I was informed and from what I've seen and from what I know. Fairly limited, but I have now fairly limited information technology. But this is basically where it all came from. And it's really not going too far beyond this, it's just getting more distracting and it's happening faster. And what took so much before is in a cell phone. Hint, hint. And, or whatever. So your perceptions are basically preloaded. It's kind of like loading a GUI from somebody's computer through remote access to try and fix their computer or check what's wrong. They're doing that with your own brain and injecting your own signature, your soul signature, into the equation like a man-in-the-middle relay, attack, or relay in this case. But you call it attack, it's really that's why it's happening this way, because it's technically no one's getting attacked. Somebody's moving all the chess pieces around, and they're really moving the squares around and confusing us and thinking the chess game has changed, but they're just, that's amazing awareness I was basically given just now. Because if you have, I don't know what that's supposed to be. And then the checkers or chess or whatever it is, you got all your players in place, and it's like, we're good to go. They didn't change the players, they moved the board pieces around through some type of weird mirroring phenomenon, or whatever you want to call it. And so everybody's all just like, what? But their kind of plausible deniability is that it's all through quantum superimposition. And so whatever turns out to be not useful for them, they can wipe it from time. However, the spirit records that, and hyperdimensional souls were recording that, and so that's what happened. Yeah, sure. It's almost like saying your method of surgery is one, involuntary, and two, doesn't work, and three, 1 to 2% of the people that go under it that otherwise have no idea are somehow capable of staying awake through the anesthesia without being able to do anything else, or they were simply not given a chance to do anything else. So in any other case, fine, you're gods, you did it. Now there are people here that are babies that were born and they can see through all that, and so it's an issue. It's a big lawsuit, if you will, for the entire civilization. And it's actually coming from above, because when that happens here, it's disrupting where humans are basically supposed to not even evolve to or be or go to, but our abilities here are supposed to be so refined that it becomes larger elsewhere, that we're seeding, we're children, we're seeding something for something higher, something larger. When this got disrupted and that disruption wasn't incorporated back into the program of being stronger and bigger, and it was literally just people going, yeah, it's perfect, they're suffering and keep them there and then we'll be on top, that's not how it ever worked. And no one ever, the truth is, the people that came here and made this place came down to give people the choice to live and to do these things, and those people chose to not do those things and to do other things and use the system another way. That bottoms out in the end because it's not made to use that way. It's So nobody's mad, nobody's really getting revenge in it. It's literally just, do you want to do that? Do you not want to do that? People just didn't want to believe. And you know, everybody goes through that where we don't want to believe or think something, anyone can know more about our lives or our mind or how things work and how our suffering is working. But unfortunately, you kind of got to listen to these people, because first, it got here, this knowledge, from finding the people who made it their job to cause suffering, and two, then this is here because they somehow solved it. And I know how it was. It's not somehow, it's just, you wouldn't think, you know. It's basically like it was solved before it even occurred, but that then is that the one who started everything, the Most High, knew all this would happen and made everything perfect for you to have it all condensed down to a choice one way or another. But you have to use your mind, and you can't lie, and you have to know yourself, because you're already doing all of this. And that's what I was saying in the first videos that I kind of playfully jumped around at and so on, and wanted to make it more serious. But so the perceptions you have from the thought impulses, which you have to develop a pause response, not a reaction, and not a reflex. Well, if it's because a reflex is basically a response or a reaction brought into control. So, and as well, if it's a reflex and it's problematic, it's because it was in the wrong place or time. We can't really have problematic reflexes unless it's through trauma. For instance, if your eyes closed because something tried to fly in it or something, that's a reflex. And if you master the art of breaking that reflex, you're just going to get stuff in your eye. But the reflex, which is not a reflex, it's like an illness, it's a reaction, it's a weird kind of traumatic response of interacting with choices or possibilities, energies that we don't know the true nature of and the true results. If we didn't have that issue, none of this would be happening. That's the primary issue. We get into shit that we're not supposed to, mentally and emotionally, and somebody told us we're all physical beings, and that's that. And so then we don't know how to get back out of that mental emotional rut, because we're not aware of how that world works, of how our mind operates, and the nature of things in that sense. If you want to just sub everything up into sentences. And so as soon as anything approaches mentally, and you easily start with the physical observation to the point where, you know, does anything, a cold shock at the end of the shower where it's not freezing but a few degrees or several degrees colder than the warm or hot shower, can you sit there for a minute, you know, and again, not freezing yourself so you're like shocked. It's not supposed to be an actual shock, it's supposed to be like a cold bump, if you will. And or do you immediately get that skin reflex and you can't control yourself? That's the filament inside of you that's either going to be strong and tempered, hardened steel like iron steel, or it's going to be kind of like a feather or a tissue, and at that point, whatever could increase the amount of energetic charge, it's like a fascial, emotive charge effect. I'm not going to go too deep into that. But it's psychosomatic in the sense of emotional. It's like psycho-emotional, can't think of the word. Meaning your body's regulating yourself, there's a temperature regulation, hormonal, all this stuff. And as well, if something occurs in your emotional field, if something occurs to your mind, it can influence these your body. And so I got distracted and thought of things a little differently as well. So then I was thinking about the spinal, I think, arc reflex, and which is connected to everything I'm talking about, and how that kind of exhibits, in a way, demonstrates your emotions and your mind and your body are integrated, and you can interface through one another, even with your cellular biology, through your emotions. And that part of the pause reflex, or the pause response or reflex, once you develop it and you're no longer responding to it with the pause, but it's automatically pausing. And again, it's a balance with that in physical nature, because you don't want to get hit over the head with something, you know, like something's fallen and you pause. But it's supposed to be, I mean, that's how you learn more easily to do it, because it seems like everything is kind of stepped up through that. And one of the other things I think is whether the body is an illusion, and that's why we're kind of having to learn that the body's fighting us in everything we want to do, if you will, and whether we're farming higher consciousness in that body or whether it's kind of containing us. I think it's a perceptual game, because we stuck around so long. There's this big like a sheath or almost like a cyst in higher space, and we're like, oh no, now we're trapped. And then it's like, no, you got to get through it because you've been doing that. And this is somebody comes and says, oh, you're trapped, you're screwed, just stay there, you can't do shit, you can't leave, blah blah. And we're just like, oh man, this guy's doing so much to us and he sucks. He's just getting all your energy. It's a long buzzer. He's just getting people's energy, and it's a trick, because people build up, and then since we're actually we're so much bigger, they come and say, oh, not them, but like this guy, I guess he goes around here and takes a picture of that and comes and says, hey, that's gonna kill you. If you ever see that, it's gonna kill you. So it's a big weird trick, and but so that the spinal arc reflex, when you have something in physical danger, blah blah, you obviously handle that, but as well you have a reflex of getting out of physical way, but you also have to pause immediately right after that to determine how to recover, if you will. And again, once you get into the flow of reflex recovery, there's no pause. But when you're learning that, you have to develop a pause, otherwise everything skits you out. The point is, it's to develop your mind to do that, and it's to develop your emotions to be stronger, which your emotions would then fade away, because emotions are basically associations between states, basically altered states. How you feel now, okay, and then you take this picture, this symbol, this thing, this memory, whatever, and now your emotions are different. It's like drugs. It's altered, but it's drugs through, it's techno drug through imagery and visual and context, and I'd be damned if it was coming through certain brain regions that were modified to do that. And so then we have why we have modified birthing, and basically the moon and certain things, and it's different from the animals here. And the universe is doing the same thing. We have too many people, blah, blah, blah. The universe is quantum cloning everybody and trying to make as much realms for the amount of people that are here. But do we have that much self-awareness? So something has to be done to increase the self-awareness, or we have to achieve that. And so then each person is basically, each awakened one is 1,000 humans exponentially. And so it's just a kind of a metaphor that your genetics come from something much larger, and if you stay within the guidelines of life, you connect with a family that always was, that's also in some weird way coming from you into you, and is much larger than we have here. It's always that way. It's because why would it be any other way? If you're, I don't know, if you're in a petri dish and then damn God's got you down, well, why would they not want to expand? It's always that way. It's just people, and then if they have neckties and stuff, okay, those aren't gods. They're not expanding. They're running out of shit, and that's what it's a war. So they have to handle it, and everybody has to handle it. But then the point of that is, if you ever see anything related to the truth, and the game is to get you to flip out so you don't understand it and don't make use of it, the best thing you can do is develop a pause reflex so you're not crapping your pants, and it will develop emotionally. Remember, don't like pause because there's a car like honking at you in the middle of the road. But it translates to not getting afraid upon sight of what is, the most fearful thing. And when that happens, you're not mutating. You're no longer being contained within the living human coffin. And so all these things play out with the mind hacking, and they use quantum superimposition to pretty much rearrange your perception of time, and that in itself became part of the Matrix as well. Everything did eventually become part of it, because it was so developed, okay, and just went in a circle, like a triangular hallway of mirrors, that 1 second in there could equal 1 billion years of human lives, and it was too intense, to the point where nobody could even understand what was going on. It expanded too fast. And as well, the resistance resisted too much. It's just a miscalculation of ideals. And then again, the emotional associations, if they're coming through that visual, auditory, memory, hippocampal circuitry, they're not yours. Otherwise, you would have been doing them. You'd be in the moment going, oh, I feel this way. If it's from your brain, it means it's not you. Now, if you want to go so deep to understand how the brain works and that everything is programmed into the brain and that's how realities work, all right then. But take control of it, and at first, whatever you experience, just realize it's either from you in the moment or it's from your brain telling you stuff. And then you'll think about it or not. And the more you think about it, the worse it'll get, unless you think by not thinking, or undo your thinking with undoing thinking thoughts or unthoughts. And so from this life, one to many, you have exponential power. The universe attempts to expand you out because that's what people thought was supposed to go on here. Little did they know, they were saying, no, we erase time, we started over, we reclone ourselves, then we live forever. But the universe is like, okay, everything, everywhere, forever. That didn't make sense. And we didn't have enough resource to back it up. And so that frozen, delayed, broken, frayed architecture for, universes, civilization, etc., led back into our psychology is again part of the matrix infrastructure. How it leached out into that part of the higher universe, and it created an infinity mirror of BS, but that's the whole point, it's just in the mirror. It doesn't really become an infinity until you make it, but you'd have to want it to be that way, and so then part of that then becomes saying, oh, me? Oh, I just show you what you want. I'm just the guy that gives you everything you want, and you love this. You love me, and you love this, and this place. So now people are really confused because it's almost as if they think they want to make this be the worst thing ever for them forever. And it doesn't make any sense. And so then the lower, we got so far down to that well, right, it's just truth we're going out of. You kind of look at this the other way, it looks like a well, if you will, and we're at the bottom of it, but it's really just time and awareness, self-awareness coming out of that we're coming out of, or darkness, and so it's kind of like looking at a gravity well or something of your mind. And then whoever's at the bottom is so then it's too long to just gradually make it. We literally never, it doesn't make sense. It's too painful to go so super fast. So the only way to do is instead of quantum leaps, it's a quantum leap and then an exponential expansion. And then, or maybe I think it actually might be exponential expansion into a quantum leap. But you can just, the wording isn't the most important part because we don't really have. Oh shit! Almost knocked tea over. Word for that. And so it's just your self-awareness catching up to your actual being, and what we are. What we are is everything you see here. That's the whole point, and we're all that. So, but then if you don't identify with that, then you're not, and that's fine because it's just all the same thing. It's just perception. However, though, I think one of the things was if the crystal thing, diamond, everybody's in the center, and that's consciousness in a sense. Doesn't look like that, I'm just kind of like giving, anyway. And everybody then that goes to that center mind is going, oh, I see the all of whatever I am and this, that, and the other. But if people were down here and stuck, it might not be that they're there and it's like, oh, I'm in eternity and this, that, and they're there like, oh, it sucks, I don't get it, what is going on? Maybe that's what it is. I'm pretty sure the whole system wouldn't work, and that it only works when all this awareness that's supposed to be there goes into the center there, then all the whatever else, I guess the observation of themselves go out. Like us as a whole is when that works. It's not just like you can go up there and be like, well, whatever, I'm in eternity now. I think that's what people did through tech and stuff, and it resulted in, it might have shattered, that might have been what shattered the crystal by trying to make it solid and whole when there wasn't enough there. And so then, this one's a weird one, but what we have here through our DNA and what I said with the tree basically and your genetic branch is it's made to expand. It's literally like a root. When, how, who, why did a root ever just grow backwards into itself? It's not possible. It's literally not even possible. So it's made for expansion, that's all there is. But then, again, what if you expand parasitically or this, that, and the other? It begins leaching out on all those other domains. And if that occurred, then those that were far out on the edges of time, if you will, living it up, had to shrink back down, because for these people who couldn't expand, the universe had to condense back down and shrink back down and then let them go. And the truth is, they stole the energy of their expansion. No one's ever gone ahead and then came back and said, oh well, you only go ahead because you're supposed to. And you do it because you sat here and you go, alright, it's done. They did it because they used tech and stole it from babies that were already healed. And they replaced the babies' healed selves and psyches with their broken psyches, so they didn't have to do the work, and it fucked the whole universe from there. The universe literally came down and said, don't do that. And then the rest of it, I can't tell you. You'll see it in the end. Their existence relies on the survival of everyone, because now they realize, they know the truth, that we all fucking explode if this thing blows up. It's not like, oh, you're just gonna fucking fly away into the beyond. Yeah, and then we don't just like, no, we won't know it. Like, no, we sit there in broken space forever, fucking as a discarnate spirit, trying to find a new crystal. A homeless spirit. So then, this only works, and that only works when you're whole. When you equal one whole. If you're under or over, because there's something else there, or something else has your energy, your soul can't close itself out, and it won't fit into that little portion of the triangle dodecahedral cube inside the big crystal thing, and then that earth crystal won't turn on in eternity. And so everyone has to do that, but the weird thing is that this is kind of on a side thing, but we're whole in the sense, but we're always ourselves, or you're always you, but you can only become whole through change, which indicates that you're more or less not whole. And then you reach a realer you, which can only conclude that the first you might not actually be you, and in that sense, none of the yous might be you. You're kind of the invisible you that all the yous are revolving around and trying to paint the backwards picture of. Yeah, it's supposed to be more circular, but it doesn't matter. And so, it would be all. Anyway, I don't care. But then that's the idea, because if you have one, and your soul is, and you move incrementally in or out of that phase and remain as one, that's the process of change in which you grow without ever changing. This process is a quantum superposition. It can only be concluded that it's not that you're not you, but that this realm is holding you in a quantum superimposition where you can artificially grow new versions of yourself, or even shrink down to below what you ever were. And in the end, you just come out and we're all one. Not in the sense of you and genetics and this, that, like one family, but I mean the energy of this universe, in the sense, whatever happened here is one. We leave this place exactly who we are and who we were in different directions when we got here. That's the trick. Everything that comes here, happens here, not comes here, everything that happens here stays here. Weird.